Beautiful. Hi, I'm John Purr, and since today is Super Tuesday, I thought I would talk about how politics is turning into entertainment. But before I get started, I should mention that in the past, I've worked for a number of Democratic candidates, all of whom lost, and usually by large margins. So to begin with, I want to start with the central fact of the campaign. As you can see, George W. Bush is slightly more popular than the Ebola virus. Now, Americans see his presidency and the direction of the country as a disaster. So in theory, Democrats should be in really good shape. Americans in polls prefer Democrats over Republicans for president, for Congress, and across virtually every issue. So in theory, Democrats should sweep to victory in November. Then again, maybe not. So the question becomes, how do you account for election outcomes that are so at odds with what a majority of the American people believe? I'd like to talk about a few theories here tonight, including one of my own. The first explanation is voter intensity versus propensity. Basically what this means is that sometimes it's more important how strongly one group feels about an issue than what Americans feel about it overall. In low turnout elections, it's the half of the half that vote that matters. Which brings us to the culture war. In a nutshell, social issues can trump economic self-interest. It's no accident that the GOP put same-sex marriage bans on the ballot in 17 states. Which is why a lot of progressives often say, we'd win if we just did a better job of educating people. Linguist George Lakoff says, not necessarily so. Republicans often win because they do a better job of framing issues that speak to voters' values and emotions. But what I'd like to talk about is how politics is becoming entertainment. That due to an oversupply of media, politics has to compete for Americans' mind share, and news, politics, entertainment is blurring. And often, it's the best show that wins. And part of the reason for that is the change in sources for Americans' campaign news. They're moving away from big three networks, from newspapers and local news, and now going to cable news and to the internet to get their political coverage. And as a result, they confront what I call the infotainment complex. That is, news, opinion, politics, entertainment, it all blurs as they're overwhelmed by all of these different sources of media. And when entertainment and politics are the same thing, the first thing that suffers is the truth. Now, all issues are basically presented as having two and only two sides. All the cable news shows bring on partisans to fight it out. The loudest and most aggressive is declared the winner. Now, nothing sells better at the box office than the conflict between good and evil. So when President Bush sounds like something out of a spaghetti western, a few people blinked, and even war heroes and children can be demonized. Now, conflict not only is good theater, it sells. As Rush Limbaugh or Bill O'Reilly could attest, being an OxyContin addict or a sexual harassment defendant is no barrier to success. Conservative shows dominate. Politics is even becoming an extension of media culture. These stories were all covered by the national media. What did Hillary's laugh mean? Was it sincere? What message did she send voters with her low-cut blouse? Inquiring minds want to know. To be considered authentic, politicians have to be performers. So for example, what if Mike Huckabee wants to return America to the Middle Ages? He plays a mean bass. So talk shows, celebrity events, they are absolute requirements. Nothing shows this more than the campaign's Christmas ads. Each sent holiday greetings to voters in Iowa, New Hampshire, and online. And there's really no question why Rudy Giuliani only won one delegate. So if you look ahead at the primaries that are going on right now, 24 of them today, the economy dominates as the issue Americans are most concerned about, more than Iraq, more than terrorism. And so the question is that what the campaigns will talk about? Short answer, no. We can expect more catchphrases and false conflict. Democrats will paint the GOP as the party of Bush. Republicans will mobilize their base by saying 3 words, President Hillary Clinton. So what happens? What is the implications of this? Well, first of all, it means when politics is theater, people get cynical, you have partisan conflict, and issues get distorted. People get the facts wrong. Half of Americans still thought Saddam had WMD. There are signs of hope, though. We have record turnout so far this year. The internet is changing the landscape. And just ask Virginia Senator George Allen about his YouTube macaca moment. That was